This video focuses on how you edit, void, delete, and copy transactions and see the accounting behind it in QuickBooks Online. Many ways to get to transactions. You can do a search and go to Advanced Search and then filter by particular transaction type. In this case, let's do invoices. And you can add filters. Look for my video on the search feature. And then you can drill into a transaction this way, just by double-clicking on it. Or I can go from, say, a customer, if I'm drilled into a customer, and then I could drill into the transaction this way: sales receipt, delayed charge, invoice. We'll go over transactions in other videos in the QuickBooks University page, so look for those. Or from vendors, or go down to transactions and go into transaction sales. Many different ways to get to transactions. Of course, you can always go from a report as well in the report section on the left. In this case, I'm going to drill into this sales receipt just by double-clicking on it. It's going to bring up the sales receipt. Just had some services for $5. Now, there is a bar at the bottom of transactions in QuickBooks Online. Things like if you want to print or preview it, or cancel out, or save and close, or save and send, or save and new. There's also a More tab. Click on it, and here's where you can copy the transaction you're on, void it, delete it, or look at the audit history. What has happened to this transaction. If you go to the transaction journal, this allows you to see what was debited and credited behind the scenes of that transaction. I'm going to drill back into the sales receipt. As you can see, how you can get to it from a report. That transaction journal is essentially a report. And if you are used to doing Control Y in desktop, well, the transaction journal is your journal report behind transactions. Now, one of my favorite ways to get to a transaction is when I click on the plus sign, and let's just go to the invoice form. In the upper left, there's a little clock icon. Those are your recent transactions. So I'm going to go down and look at this invoice number 3061. I got a lot of items on here that I sold. Click on More. I can go ahead and make a copy of the invoice, which is literally going to copy it. And then once you copy it, just click on Save. Under the More tab, again, I could void it if I want to, and this is just going to void the invoice. Or I could totally delete it, or look at the audit history, which again is going to be built off the audit log report. You'll find a video on the audit log on the QuickBooks University site. It shows the history for the particular transaction. Someone edited it June 29th at 3:27. It was originally entered December 1st, so someone edited it just recently. And then, so here's the first event of this transaction. So there's that as well. And that's, again, you'll find all this stuff under the More tab on any transaction, whether it's a check, bill, sales receipt, invoice. Look for the More tab.